Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this special news bulletin. Apparently, we are traveling back in time, back to an era where criticism, well, actually nothing's really changed. Criticism is always the same. If you criticize the wrong people or the right people, depending on your viewpoint, what side of the aisle you sit on, well, then you are nothing more than a filthy, nasty, disgusting bigot. We're going on all the way back to the rise of Skywalker, ladies and gentlemen. This article from Bounding into Comics is making the rounds on the YouTubers. And hell, why not talk about it? Because, well, that's one of the things that I focus on my channel. The nonsensical drivel coming out of the big brain paint chip eating public. Geeks of Color writer makes ridiculous claim that, well, of course it's ridiculous. Of course it's ridiculous, John, we all know this. We're getting used to it. It's almost like a badge of honor to be called one of these istophobic names. It means you're living rent-free in someone's head. It's a quite empty, spacious home. Anyway. Oh, claims that critics of Disney's Star Wars movies and shows are... You go ahead and read that for yourself. This is easily one of the more mind-boggling takes that we see over and over every time something comes out with Disney Star Wars. If you criticize Rose Tico, you're criticizing the character, not the actress, but people don't see it that way. They use it. People are attacking the actress. No, the character was shit. You criticize Reva's performance in Obi-Wan. Well, you're just a racist. Even though the character was garbage, nonsensical and useless, didn't make any sense. Survived not one but two lightsaber stabs to the gut. We feel sorry for you, Qui-Gon. We could have saved you if you had only had a vagina. My goodness, I just see this over and over again. Geeks of Color. Now, there's some criticism on this guy's website, or his, I guess, choice, Geeks of Color. I don't necessarily have a problem with someone wanting to showcase a particular demographic of any sort of fandom, whether, whatever, Geeks of Color, Mechanics of Color, anything. You want to showcase those who have succeeded, and that is your focal point. And I don't necessarily see a problem with that. However, if that is what you choose, you are essentially being a little bit of a racist, because you are isolating a particular demographic, black people. I'm sorry, people of color, because that's a perfectly okay. You can't say color people anymore. That's bad. But people of color, perfectly fine. Oh, can we do away with that, please? That'd be nice, because it's just as insulting. Showcasing the work, the achievements of, again, particular demographic. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that is what you're going to focus on, maybe you shouldn't throw around that little supremacist term, because you're segregating an entire group of people over others. That you're being it may not be as negative connotations of racism, but it is kind of textbook. Anyway, we're going to move on. Geeks of Color writer Andres Cabrera recently made the bizarre claim that critics of the Walt Disney Company's atrocious... John, you're so mean. Atrocious Star Wars, maybe you're being too nice, movies and television show are white supremacy. You're repeating yourself. Stop it. And I'm jumping around entirely too fast. Oh, look, Sabine Wren, the fantastic, super wonderful, bestest ever. Cabrera took to Twitter to assert his claim, writing, quote, let's go to the actual quote right here. A lot of people forget this, but there is a direct correlation, even though I don't have any receipts, proof, or any sort of charts or nothing like that to back up this claim, between the white supremacist crowd and the unbridled hatred of the Star Wars sequels, because they're shit. I saw in real time, still without any sort of receipts, I saw in real time as they scouted out the Star Wars fandom as a potential haven for spreading their message of hatred. I should call it a hatred. A thread. Next, he wrote, It started with the straightforward racist approach of hating on The Force Awakens because... See, this next statement you're going to hear is provenly false. I'm sure I've said it before because it's infuriating for me to see what they did. Hating on The Force Awakens because a black stormtrooper was one of the leads in the movie, which was actually one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. His character, his story, the story of Finn was fantastic. I loved it. And then Rian Johnson shit all over him. When their target audience didn't fall in line with the blatantly racist take, they moved on to the good old-fashioned misogyny of Mary Sue Palpatine, who had the character of a plank of wood, the story arc of a flat line, and was just terrible. The hatred of race. No, I want to go back to this thing about Finn. People loved Finn. I don't recall any negative statements about Finn as a character in The Force Awakens. That's all I could talk about. The idea of a stormtrooper, and again, this discussion has been going on since The Force Awakens came out. The idea of a stormtrooper who was not a clone, taken from his family at a young age, conditioned, brainwashed into serving the Empire, who somehow broke that conditioning and had hints of being Force sensitive. The idea that Finn could possibly become the Luke Skywalker of the trilogy and not Rey. So many different fan theories that would have made the sequel trilogy exponentially better, which really isn't. It's not a exponentially better than what it was. It's a really low bar, you know. Like even the best limbo dancers couldn't get under that bar. It's so low. So the fan theories coming out, were just they were fantastic, genuinely. The one of them I had, this idea that Rey slowly turns toward the dark side, Finn becomes trained in Force use, time jump between movies. You see Finn going after Rey to try to bring her back to the light, and the fight between them, and just it would have been fantastic, so much better than what Disney gave us. So this idea that there was hatred over Finn because, oh my God, he was a black guy, or the dislike of The Force Awakens because, oh no, Finn was there. No, patently false, provenly false. Pull your head out of your ass. The hatred of Rey became a massive point for Star Wars channels as soon as The Force Awakens came out because it was a crap movie. It was a copy-paste job from A New Hope, and it was just bad. Not as bad as the following sequels, but it was still bad. Nearly every corner of Star Wars YouTube featured this targeted campaign against Rey. Now, there was another channel that mentioned the idea of this being a targeted campaign, that the implication of someone going out. Oh, coordinated effort, that's what it was. The idea of a coordinated effort to go after this movie, that one person or two people or a small group of people went out and contacted all these YouTubers, say, hey, you talk about this, you talk about that. We're not that organized. Geeks are organized, but not that organized. We just like to run our mouths. We argue about all these different things, all these settings and movies and characters and how they're depicted, whether it go from comic books to live action, and that's what we argue about. And after a while, when you start talking about the same things, you see the same things because they're there like a billboard on the interstate. So the idea that this was some sort of coordinated effort, you are reaching so far, it's ridiculous. Coordinated effort. Created similar talking points with different variations in order to spread across online spaces. Or maybe, just maybe, a massive group of people, because this movie did make $2 billion. So many people saw this movie, and a percentage of them, half of them, hell, let's go with a quarter of them, saw the same things, had the same ideas because they love Star Wars, and they saw things that didn't make sense. And they weren't sure. They kept it to themselves because so many people loved Disney Star Wars. So many people just absolutely loved it, and it made $2 billion. So they didn't say anything, but one person started talking about it, or 5 people started talking about it. And then others saw that and went, wait a minute, I see that too. And then more and more. And sure, geeks will talk amongst each other, compare notes and other things, but a good chunk, when you see the same thing, you notice the same things, you're going to have the same talking points. Claiming that is some sort of coordinated effort, I think that's just gaslighting, reaching, grasping at straws. Straightforward racist approach. Not to mention the idea that there's some sort of racism towards Finn or towards Star Wars because, oh, Star Wars fans don't like black characters. I don't need to show off the many, many, many characters of color in the Star Wars universe that people love, that people enjoyed. Samuel L. Jackson, Billy D. Williams, Finn. Finn was a beloved character until Rian Johnson shit all over him. You're grasping. You're going back in time and trying to create some sort of relevance for yourself, your channel, your Twitter account, maybe? I don't know. I don't understand why this is suddenly rearing its ugly head all of a sudden again. But hey, it's a day that ends in Y. An important thing to remember is that these takes came from the same people. No, they didn't. They came from whole different people all across the internet. The same ones who were screaming and crying because there was a black lead in a Star Wars movie. Nobody complained about Finn being... Nobody complained about Lando Calrissian. Nobody complained about Samuel L. Jackson. But sure. Came from the same spaces as the originators of the hate movement against Rey. Yes, because she... Well, okay. First of all, there was no hate towards, that I had ever seen, towards Finn as a character. The only hate was towards Rian Johnson and Disney for ruining his character. Those same people criticized Rey for being a Mary Sue, for being able to know everything, for being fantastic at the Force with very little to hardly any, if any at all, training whatsoever, at least until the third movie. That's who we're dealing with. And the people on your side that we're dealing with is the constant gaslighting, name-calling, and nonsensical articles like this, or Twitter statements like this, that we have to put up with, almost to the point where, well, it's just par for the course. Criticism equals bigotry. After The Last Jedi, all hell broke loose. Of course it is, because it was a bad movie. The message became even more effective with camouflage talking points that were made to seem more sensible and relatable, while still harboring the same theme. They sugarcoated the brazenness of their contempt to appear more reasonable. I bet he's about to talk about Rose Tico. Let's see. Interesting, he claimed that it's spreading as Disney pumps out more Star Wars television because quantity over quality is just fantastic. The problem is this sentiment... Another quote here. The problem is this sentiment is still alive and growing within the Star Wars community. Well, maybe... Oh, no, we're going to go on to Reva. We saw it in the hatred against Reva in Obi-Wan. The quote, too many female character takes against Ahsoka. Well, because, I'm sorry, in the Star Wars universe, is it wrong that fans want a strong male character to look up to look forward to? Is that wrong? It's about as wrong as women looking for strong female characters in the genres that they like. What is so difficult to understand that Star Wars is primarily, yes, these movies and shows and everything, they are made for families. But action, science fiction is a male-dominated demographic. You may not like it, but you have to accept it and understand facts. Sure, there are women, lots of women, I'm not simping, lots of women out there that love science fiction, that love Star Wars, but percentage-wise, over the demographic, it is primarily a male-dominated demographic. So, I'm sorry, please forgive me, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to see a positive, strong male figure in a TV series. Not to mention the fact that the actresses in Ahsoka were planks of wood. No emotion. Add to that, the story of Ahsoka was, well, check out some of my live streams on Dumpster Fireside channel. We've talked about it. I hated the story. It was just, and it had nothing to do, anyway. Oh, he then appeared to realize he was blanketing every critic of Disney Star Wars and attempted to walk it back. Let's see. Let's go back down here. I think his quotes are a lot more fun. No offense, John. The problem with this sentiment, yes, back here. The hatred against Reva in Obi-Wan, too many female characters take against Ahsoka, and on it goes. It has become almost imperceivable from regular Star Wars fandom. The only way you find it imperceivable is if you're not actually listening to the legitimate criticism. He continues, clearly, I'm not saying a dislike or disappointment in the recent Star Wars project automatically equates to the worst of the fandom, even though that's kind of what you're doing. However, this is a distinct bad faith portion, kind of like what your argument is here, of the Star Wars fandom that has become effective in their messaging and brandings as, quote, just speaking the truth. It is very easy to see bad writing, bad choices, bad story arcs. They're just bad. Are they the truth? Are they fact? I guess that's subjective. The truth is, we got a new buzzword that's going to be thrown around over and over again, much like racist and Nazi and misogynist and all these other things, any sort of phobe. Here we go. The truth is, online grifters have grown exponentially in recent years, and it's important to remember how a lot of them choose Star Wars as their pop culture watering ground in order to cultivate further hateful themes and capture the attention of an overly eager fan base. It sounds like what he's trying to say is that people who are criticizing Star Wars and the direction Disney's going are just trying to sow the seeds of hatred. Like, all they want is to hate on Star Wars. And that can't be further from the truth. Many of the channels that many of the channels that I follow that criticize Disney and Star Wars and Marvel and all these other things beg for something well written. We want something good. We want something to be happy about, something to look forward to that, not necessarily looking forward to dumping on, but looking forward to talking positively about, like Dune 2, like the next season of Arcane, things like that. Why is that so hard to understand? What makes everyone think that these particular channels that he's talking about want to hate on the franchises, look forward to hating on the franchises? Ultimately, even with a bit of apathy, there's still even the most minuscule glimmer of hope held on to that would be that if Disney put out something good for Marvel or Disney, just good, doesn't have to be great, doesn't have to blow the doors off. It could just be good. Minimal plot holes, minimize the piss poor acting, do a better job at pacing, choreography, story beats, story arcs. Stop putting out the Mary Sues. Give some emotion, put some weight behind the story. And then maybe we'll have something good to talk about. Maybe a lot of people will start changing their tunes. But so far, everything coming out of Disney has been one toilet flush after another toilet flush. The ratings are plummeting. The ratings are up at episode 1 of the season, and they steadily go down. The audience reviews steadily go down. The box office numbers, simply look at that over the past years, especially for Disney. Diminishing returns, one box office flop after another after another. But the negative criticism, they're the problem. Maybe if the studios, such as Disney, since we're talking about Star Wars, maybe if they just started putting out better products and stopped bending the knee to ideological nonsense and self-inserts and focused on story and, I don't know, made a plan. Why is he spelling hate with Scrabble? Focus on a good story and a good delivery with a plan, and it might surprise you that the tunes will change. Maybe not overnight, but it's time to work on getting new shit out there. Better getting new shit out there. They're putting new stuff out there all the time. It's just garbage. There has been a lot of people who have pointed out the same issue, but I want to bring attention to this post. Oh, for fuck's sake. Post by Rewriting Ripley that really gets into it. I don't think I can keep going down this. I've heard about that. And there's a lot of just different stories about what Rewriting Ripley was. And, let's see what else John has to say. Novelist John Del Eros reacted to Cabrera's claims point by point in a recent YouTube video, first noting that The Force Awakens sucks. Yes, it sucked. He explained, quote, "It was a rehash of A New Hope. Everyone knows it. Everyone admits it. Rehash of The New Hope that was poorly done without the emotion, without you caring about the characters." Yeah, true. They didn't give. I don't think they gave enough to care about it. Most of the characters. There were some interesting starting points for Rey, but again, it just went downhill fast. Halfway through the movie, probably. Strong female lead who has nothing to do with anything, and some black guy. That was all it was. They literally just rebooted it with minorities and women in the lead. Well, maybe, oh, good Lord. You're going to find idiots like that. You're going to find trolls like that who spout off at the mouth. If those are the channels that he's specifically talking about, then sure, I'll agree with him. Those clickbait, nonsensical stories. To narrow down A New Hope to minorities and women, well, there was an attempt at a story. It was just a bad attempt. It was an attempt with a piss poor delivery, poor execution. To narrow it down, you're intentionally trying to get under people's skin. You have no argument. Literally just rebooted it with minorities and women in the lead just to do that. I wouldn't take your opinion on anything to heart. A grain of salt, I would probably need a salt minus salt to listen to your opinion. That didn't even make sense, but we're going to stick with it. De La Rose would reiterate his comments when Cabrera got to The Last Jedi, noting Rian Johnson's film sucked. That's the best you can do? I'm done with this article. This guy, this individual, where's his name again? Andres Cabrera. He's decided to drag out dragging out old comments that we've heard over and over and over again. And yeah, they're old, they're wrong, but hey, do whatever you need to do to get your name in the spotlight, to get people talking about you. All press is not good press, but hey, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for making it this far, especially. Usually fall off at the end. I'm going to end this, whatever. Leave a like, leave a dislike. Appreciate you making it this far. Hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, share with your enemies. Have a good one. Hope you see you on the next one. Bye-bye.